by showing you this simple graph. So this is the TVL graph. TVL, for those who don't know, TVL stands for total value locked. And this graph basically shows that how the TVL got spread within the different blockchains from 2021 to come 2023. So what you see here is, like, when we started, like, it was a DeFi summer of early 2020. That is the starting point, and it's majority of it is blue. So the blue color here means that it's Ethereum. It's representing Ethereum. So if we look at the data on 6 August 2020, Ethereum had 96% of the TVL, and CeeLo chain had like 3.5, Tron had 0.4, BSC had 0, and most of them, the new chains didn't even exist at that point of time. And things changed drastically come 2022. Ethereum had only 50% of the TVL. So from 96%, it went to 50. And that happened within less than 2 years. And Terra had like 10%, Avalanche suddenly had 8%, BSC had 6.5%, Phantom 5%. So basically, TVL got dispersed. And if you look at it today, Ethereum regained some share primarily because Luna went under and there's no Luna today. So Ethereum is now back at 60%, Tron is at 11%, BSC 8%, Arbitrum 4.9%. One key blockchain which is missing here is Bitcoin, because lately, I'm sure if you would have heard, Bitcoin also have started to have some DeFi products on top of it, built in some hacky way, but they are also very cool. So basically, what we saw in the 2 3 years was from 2022 to 2023, the TVL got dispersed and fragmented, and the developers also, they choose to build on different chains. Like if you want cheaper transactions, you want to build on something like Polygon. If you want to build on a rollup which uses security of Ethereum, you want to build on Arbitrum, Optimism. If you want to build for something which is closer to the Binance ecosystem, you probably want to BSC. It's famous for shitcoins. And then Tron, for like, do you know, like, Tron has like majority of the USDT TVL. It's probably almost equivalent to Ethereum. So all of the OTC world in the USDT runs on the Tron blockchain. So basically, all the blockchains found their own use cases, and the latest to the addition would be the Tron blockchain, the open network. It's like only blockchain in the world which already has like a platform of around almost billion users, so it can do wonders. And as a builder, what you should be concerned about or thinking about is that you can build lots of dApps on Prawn, and they can be, phenomenally useful. The benefit of building on Tron will be that it already has a platform which is used by so many people. The only thing which you need to take care would be that you should be able to leverage capital and users from the other ecosystems as well. And for example, if someone is on BSC and you build your app on Tron, it should not be hard for them to use your app. And that is how you will attract the users of other ecosystems in your application. So that is why interoperability is important. Interoperability is just a way or a method or just a process with which different blockchains communicate with each other. They can be communicating different messages. There could be movement of assets with the help of some liquidity pools. There could be some applications which are complex in nature and they are built, some part is built on BSC, some part is built on Tron, some part is built on Ethereum. Anything can happen. So for a upcoming blockchain like Tron, it is very important, if you are a builder, to think about how do you attract users and liquidity from other chains. And that is where interoperability comes into the picture. Now, if now I'm going to pause for a bit, and if anyone has any questions, please ask. You can unmute yourself and ask if you want to ask anything. Otherwise, we'll go back. to what we're doing. More questions? Okay. So now we're going to take a structured look at it and how it all started, what was the pre-interoperability era, what are some use cases, and what is the future. So, like to give some background, basically there was earlier Web 1. Web 1 was like opening a like information website, like opening something like Berkshire Hathaway or some news website where you can just see what is there. Then came Web 2. Web 2 allowed users to become creators. Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, YouTube, they all allowed the users on the web to create stuff and publish it. That was the difference. This major change happened in 2009 to 2010. Then came Web 3. Now you can not just read and write, you can also own things in a cryptographic way. So this is very important. For example, there are some applications like Lens which can let you own your social graph. The Bitcoin which you have in your wallet, you cryptographically own them if you manage your private keys well. Nobody can take away from you. So that is why the Web3 movement is taking speed and it's getting a lot of people interested in it because you can now actually cryptographically own something for once, which was previously not possible. Like if you have some money in your bank account, it's just a IOU. Like your bank tells you, hey, I have this entry for you in the database. uh, I mean, it can go to zero. It can be confiscated, or you could be locked out. But those things cannot happen in a Web 2 ecosystem, so in a Web 3 ecosystem. So that is where the own part comes into it. So this is like a rough history. So we started with Bitcoin, and then a lot of dApps came up like Maker, Compound, and Ethereum, like blockchain, and then Uniswap. And that was like the history, like how we started. And a lot of them like found their use cases, like Maker found the use case in issuing a decentralized stable coin called DAI. Bitcoin found the utility as the world's most decentralized coin and like a digital gold. Ethereum found its utility like a world computer. Uniswap, like a first decentralized, truly decentralized exchange. So that was like the beginnings of Web3. So now I'm coming back to what I was trying to highlight with the graph. In 2018 to 2020, a lot of new platforms, or you can call them different blockchains, they popped up out of nowhere. Terra, Avalanche, Solana, Algorand, Near, Optimism, Polygon, Filecoin, Flow, even Ton, Ripple, BSC, Polkadot, everything came up out of this. And there was like no way for them to communicate or like talk to each other, and they were like just existing in silos. And then there was lack of communication. The chains could not communicate to each other. Community was getting fragmented in terms of liquidity and users. And then it was very hard for an oracle to be established between different chains because there was literally no way for a chain to verify the state of something on another chain. So then we realize like, something is needed. Blockchain interoperability is needed. So blockchain interoperability enables different blockchains to communicate and exchange data through cross-chain messaging protocols. So this is like the main thing. The blockchains must communicate with other blockchains. I mean, because they should not become walled gardens. They should be like open platforms where people are coming in and plugging in different things and building cool stuff. It should not be like, hey, you are in this blockchain and you have to be restricted to this blockchain. Why not attract users and community of other chains? So that becomes very important. So now the question is, why is blockchain interoperability very important? So seamless transfer of data, assets, and value across different networks is very useful in the future dApps which you are going to build because like if you want to truly build a cross-chain dApp, I mean, you need a connective tissue for the data and assets to move across different chains. And for that to happen, it's very important that you are able to manage the state across different chains, read the state across different chains. For example, you may have USDC on BSC, but you want a USDC on TON. So you need a bridge to do that, and TON provides you a bridge to do that. So for all of those use cases, it's very important to like be allowed to move value across different chains. And interoperability opens a wide range of possibilities for new applications and use cases which like previously could not exist. So, for example, a cross-chain swap application, like maybe like there are new coins launching on blockchain, and if someone on Polygon wants to buy it, so there can be like a cross-chain swap application where someone can put in, say, maybe 5 Matic and buy some new coin on Ton instantly. And with the help of interoperability, we can also improve the security and reliability of blockchain networks, because you can like get creative. You can introduce redundancy, and you can have different chains monitor the same information and store the same information. And the reliability of the networks can also be improved because we can immediately switch chains, if you will. So, cross-chain communication protocols allow different blockchain networks to communicate with each other, and they enable the transfer of data, assets, and value between different blockchains. So now we are going to talk about some use cases. So one is DeFi, that is decentralized finance. Think of like a cross-chain swap application or a cross-chain options exchange or anything. And if there can be NFT, so think of an NFT which is a cross-chain NFT or a multi-chain NFT. So like we recently saw there were like some ecosystem wars in which some large NFT projects like Utes were migrating from Solana to Polygon, and there were like a lot of fight and conflicts. I mean, all that can be avoided if those NFTs are of cross-chain nature and they can like exist anywhere and everywhere, and let the community decide where they want to use it. And gaming, because gaming would require like a multi-layer approach. Like you could let do some small actions on a cheap chain, and like some chain which is very low fees, and then you can do some economic layer on like a roll up like Optimism or Arbitrum, and then maybe you can like keep the very very useless information on something like a layer 3 type of roll up like built on top of Arbitrum, like a new roll up. So all of that will have to be connected to work with, like for that enshrine roll up on top of some layer 3 will have to communicate to that liquidity layer on layer 2, and to communicate with some profile layer on layer 1. So for all that connectivity tissue to happen between those roll-ups and layer 2s and layer 3s, you need that tissue. So that is like one use case of interoperability. Identity. So a lot of like few exchanges have started to issue a SBT token. SBT, for those who don't know, is a soul-bound token. So for that SBT token, to like they can give you on one chain, but what if you could get it on like cross chain? So like SBT, then you can on chain prove that you have done your KYC to anyone by moving that cross chain SBT to different chains. Currently, it's not possible because it really gets issued on just one chain. And then healthcare can also like use interoperability by like there would be some ecosystems in future which would leverage public and private interoperability. And with that to happen, it would be very important that there is some connective tissue between the public systems and the private systems, and it could also be extended for medical records. There could be some GK based layers for security. There could be some economic layers for moving the data around and releasing the data rights for training AI models. And for all that, like all those chains need to be coming together and work together, and for that you need some interoperability. And dexes we already discussed, like buying some token from one chain and selling it on another chain. All those use cases will require interoperability. So now we are going to talk about the future of blockchain interoperability. So in future, like, there would be enhanced collaboration which we have not seen till now, because a lot of new ideas will open up and things will be possible which were previously not possible. And then the whole blockchain ecosystem will emerge like one giant blockchain. For example, like the HTTP network has emerged as like the de facto standard for the web. Like earlier we used to have protocols for mails, there was some SMTP which used to get used, still get used but not in public domain anymore. And then there was some FTP protocol which used to get used for files. But today it's mostly 99% of the things are done by HTTP, HTTPS. So that is how I expect the interoperability to help the blockchain emerge. That the user will not even know which chains are getting involved, and there would be like just one interface they interact with, and everything happens very smoothly behind. And then I think it could be an innovation catalyst which would allow a new innovations to come and prosper. So the question is, how do you get involved? Like, what can you do? So you can become a developer and build some cross-end apps. You can be a user and try those apps. You can even become a designer and help design those different apps. And to summarize, the Web3 has evolved, and interoperability is like a key for everyone, and connectivity is like very important, and it makes things costless and allow you to make more. And if you are a developer or someone just curious, you should definitely get involved. And instead of moving assets to compute, move compute to where assets are. So what this means is that you can actually like manage where you want to do the logical stuff in a middleware. For example, there could be a middleware for the interchain where the stateful bridging can happen. Like, this is someone just future avenue of the interoperability space. And basically what this means is that we could move compute to the chains which are cheaper in terms of compute, and bring back the results to the more expensive chains. And that's all about the slides. And the presentation concludes at this point.